What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the Nintendo Switch has been on an absolute roll in terms of sales heading into 2022, with some outlets even claiming, like VG Charts, that the system has crossed that 100 million unit threshold. However, it does appear that Nintendo has issued a bit of a warning now for the system heading into the new year, and we're going to be talking about that one here today. Also, we're going to be talking about a project that we had covered previously for the GameCube that unfortunately has run into many issues and has been canceled. And we're also going to be talking about what was apparently the biggest story so far this week, and it has to do with Logan Paul and Game Boys. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Halo Infinite. Now, we are waiting to hear more information around new content heading to the game, like, I don't know, maps. That would be great. But it does look like some information has leaked out through a data mining where they found new metals that are not in the game yet that appear to be alluding to some new game types heading to the game here pretty soon. We can see this tweet here from Halo Infinite News and Leaks with an entire thread of different metals that have been found in the game through data mining, and you can see a nice little screenshot here of 4 of them: Zombie Slayer, Clash of Kings, Reclaimer, and the Sickness. There are also a few other images with different metals, and we'll kind of put them up here as we go over the 2 big game types that I was excited to kind of see here. And one of them is Infection, which is a ton of fun. Played that a ton back with Halo 3 when it really started blowing up. It's a good time where you have zombies and people get infected and then you turn into a zombie, and it's basically like the last person who can survive. Also looks like they have a bit of a, I guess, a reference to Shaun of the Dead there, so that's kind of fun. Then the other one appears to be Griffball, which is just a good time. These are more silly, non-competitive game types, and that's fun. Like I said, a lot of people now really just go online for Halo Infinite to just mess around with their friends and go through Team Slayer or Quick Play or Big Team Battle. The rank stuff is fun, but at times I just like to hop on and have some fun with a couple of friends in the game, and these game types will just add to that. I'm just hoping we can at some point get some new maps to play on, because that's really what the big thing is now, is you get like the same 3 or 4 maps depending on the game type. Also, we had talked previously about Famitsu going around and asking developers and publishers what their big goals and aspirations are for 2022. Well, it looks like another one has been pointed out here, that being Atlus, and it looks like they have some big plans here going into the new year. We can see this posted up by Persona Central. This is from Mr. Takada at the First Creative Department. That department actually handled Shin Megami Tensei 5, and now that that's out, they're looking forward to 2022. And their biggest thing here is for aspirations, saying, "I chose challenge as the keyword for 2022 with the hope to release a game that will become a pillar for Atlus. All of us at Atlus are working hard to develop this game so that it will be interesting and satisfying for everyone, so please look forward to it." I think the biggest reveal people are hoping for leading into 2022 is Persona 6. Obviously, the overall popularity of Persona 5 really just pushed Persona into the mainstream, as we even saw it nominated for Game of the Year, which is not typical for a JRPG like that. It's also possible they're going to introduce a brand new IP, but I do feel like Persona 6 would garner that all-hands-on-deck mentality to get it out there, market it, and release it. But don't count Atlus out when it comes to a brand new IP that maybe could become a new pillar, whether it's a spin-off that turns into its own series, or who knows from there. But I have a feeling, based on the fact that they are like apparently in the middle of their anniversary for Persona, kind of thinking we may see a new game in that series, and probably some ports to other platforms as well. Oh, and we had just talked about that Sonic Lego set that was leaked out. Looks like it has been confirmed. You can see this listing over on the Lego website. Sonic the Hedgehog Green Hill Zone, coming in at a price of $69.99. That's good marketing, I guess, there. And then it looks like the release date is January 1st, 2022. Probably has to be in Lego stores as well, so I guess people will be waking up early to wait in line. I don't know, will Sonic the Hedgehog pull that kind of a crowd? Because I do know with like the NES and the Mario stuff, there was generally a line waiting for the Lego store to open. I'm curious about Sonic the Hedgehog and if it will get that same kind of reaction. It's pretty cool to see this set being confirmed. Coming in at $70, I know Lego sets they tend to be more expensive overall. It's not like we had like the NES set that was $200 some odd or something. So I guess this isn't too bad. And it looks like it's something you're going to build and then put on display, and it's certainly set up for that. So good news there for fans of the Lego sets and of course Sonic. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this warning that Nintendo's president, Mr. Furukawa, appears to have issued around the Switch heading into 2022. Like I said, the Switch has been on an absolute tear when it comes to sales. If it is correct that the Switch has crossed the 100 million unit threshold, the only other system that's done it faster is the DS. And that's some very good company to be in, considering that means they would have done it faster than the PS2, the Wii, the PlayStation 4, and so on there. But it looks like Nintendo will be feeling the squeeze when it comes to supply, much like we're seeing with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Just hasn't really caught up to the Switch as much since we heard sales numbers where they crossed like 1 million units throughout like November and that holiday time period with like Black Friday and everything. But we can see this tweet, this from David Gibson, who mentioned that Nintendo president was interviewed, this linking to Kyoto MP, that is in Japanese, so we'll go through some of the translations and summary that he has here. The supply of the Switch may stagnate after start of 2022. The said year-end sales for Switch in 2021 were strong, especially the OLED, which, yeah, it's actually pretty hard to find an OLED. Sometimes you see it pop up, but it does sell out pretty quickly. And then they say in the US, it had logistics problems and resorted to using air freight to reach stores for Black Friday. That's not the first time we heard about this. Even with Nintendo, they have like flown in systems using more expensive shipping methods like air freight. And we just talked about Sony doing that in parts of Europe. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with these systems now. It's not necessarily, okay, can we just get the parts and build these things? We also have to get them to stores in time for like the holiday season. So they had to use rail freight in the EU for the first time to meet demand. Adding that after the new year, it depends on the demand, but as we had feared, we will not be able to produce as many as we want to, which means that Nintendo is going to run into a situation that I have a feeling they did not expect to see when they first launched the system in 2017, and that is that the system would be still so popular in year 5 that they just won't be able to meet demand overall when it comes to stock. I'm sure Nintendo would love to create 30 million of them and push them out there because they'd most likely create another model, maybe a Switch Lite with an OLED screen. And I mean, yeah, that would then spike sales once again because people would want to go out and get another Switch for their house. I am starting to see more and more people online say they just have multiple Switches in their house now, and that was Nintendo's strategy, to continue selling multiple systems to different households. So the Switch was not only a personal system, but also like a family system that people can like put on the TV. So thinking about it that way, it does make me wonder what Nintendo's plans will be now going into year 6, year 7, if we have these supply issues that are not just around parts, but even just logistics and getting these systems out there. Will Nintendo hold off on another system or a revision? Is this basically the way Nintendo is going to go here for the next couple of years? Because sure, that might slow the overall sales of the current Switch, which again, an odd issue for Nintendo to end up here in year 5 and then year 6, but it could also elongate the overall generation to be to a point where they could outsell the DS or the PS2, with the Switch becoming the most successful system overall in history for gaming when it comes to number of units sold. Let me know if you think that Nintendo can still get there despite a lot of the supply and manufacturing concerns as they head into 2022 for the system. It was a question I asked on the poll as well. We'll take a look at that later on in the show. Next up, let's talk about a GameCube project that was really exciting when it was announced. People, I mean, flooded this Kickstarter, dumped tons of money in there, raised over $2 million, I believe. Unfortunately, though, it looks like for the time being, it's not going to be happening, and it has been canceled. We can see this over on the panda.gg website, where they say, "We have some unfortunate news to share today. Since opening the Kickstarter, we've been made aware of a few factors outside of our control that, when added up, have affected our production timeline. Among other roadblocks, our main manufacturing partner in China is being affected by the ongoing rolling blackouts, slowing their production, which was already affected by COVID-related shortages. We know how excited you are to get the Panda controller as soon as possible, but it looks like we can't guarantee the December 2022 date anymore, and we don't know what the new date will be yet." They go on to say that they are going to be refunding all money that has been put into this Kickstarter, and they could maybe look towards other means to be able to release that. Most likely, what I'm seeing here with this Panda controller is they're still going to try to make it happen, and the popularity, which originally they were looking for $100,000 to make this project happen, they got over $2 million, and it blew up online to the point where they were probably surprised by the reception. When you have a response like that, and people are throwing money at you, and you're telling them, hey, this thing's not even ready for over a year. Because remember, December 2022 is when they were first going to be rolling these out to backers of a project, and they were getting like $100 from most people with this. Some doing the bigger donations and the bigger investments. I mean, racking up $2 million that quickly on Kickstarter is impressive, to where you may have people come in, other private investors who would be willing to fund, even help to produce and publish this controller just completely. Like, you could walk into a Best Buy or something and buy a brand new high-end GameCube controller. That's exciting stuff. Like, I was gonna get this, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, great, I can use this for Smash. I was like, wow, I can play Mario Strikers with this awesome looking GameCube controller. So it's unfortunate news, but it continues to remind us just really how messed up manufacturing, supply, and logistics are right now behind the scenes due to the pandemic. And this is something that's probably going to be ongoing for a while. If they weren't able to guarantee delivery of this product by December 2022, we're going to be most likely dealing with the fallout from the pandemic and what it has done to the supply chain and everything for the next probably couple of years now. My hope here, though, is that it does resurface as something that is just going to happen, doesn't need Kickstarter. Other funds have come in to make this a reality, because, yeah, I would like to just put an order in, pre-order it, and have it just shipped out so I can get to playing some of these GameCube games with an awesome looking controller. So here's hoping in a year or two it pops back up online. Next up, let's talk about another project that's been announced by Remedy, and they've been quite busy. They've partnered with, I believe now, 3 different publishers, and it looks like they're adding a 4th to the mix with a new project, this one being codenamed Vanguard. We can head over to IGN, where they say Remedy Entertainment, the company behind Control and Alan Wake, has signed a global development license and distribution agreement with Tencent for a new cooperative multiplayer game that is currently codenamed Vanguard. Now, the description for this is it'll be a free-to-play cooperative PvE shooter that combines Remedy's narrative expertise and action gameplay into an immersive multiplayer experience. It's going to be developed using Unreal Engine for both PC and consoles, and apparently Tencent's involvement will of course be funding, publishing, and also localization for Vanguard to select Asian markets, and it will cover any related localization costs. And just to go over all the publishers and projects that Remedy is working on right now: Smilegate with Crossfire X, Epic Games, Alan Wake 2, 505 Games for Control 2 and Project Condor, and now Tencent with Vanguard, and it's interesting to see Remedy have so many projects going on right now. I honestly am a little surprised they're able to handle that much. I mean, sure, Vanguard's in proof of concept, so that might not even get into full development until something like Alan Wake 2 is closer to the finish line, at least Crossfire X. But like, we heard those rumors going around that Remedy may have been like in talks of being purchased by Microsoft or Sony, and based on this, yeah, it probably was something that was being discussed, because clearly they are looking around for funding from different publishers to get these games done and out distributed, all of that. I guess at some point they said, hey, we can probably make our own publishing deals and get these things done without the need to be purchased. And generally that's what studios will tend to go out and do, especially one like Remedy, that size, where they're like, well, we'd like to still remain independent, but also find different ways to publish these titles through funding with like Epic Games and yeah, even Tencent now. So this is a ways off, but certainly keep an eye on Remedy, as it looks like in the next couple of years, they're going to be releasing game after game after game. And in our last bit of news, let's go over what's, I guess, been the most talked about story this week so far. And it's Wednesday, so I'm holding out hope for something else popping up, but that has to do with Logan Paul and Game Boys. And originally I had missed this, and then I started looking through my Twitter DMs where people will send requests for different stories, and I mean, this one was stacked up in there. Has to do with basically Logan Paul taking Game Boys and turning them into a very permanent art project, we'll say. We can see this tweet here from Logan Paul, first epoxy resin project, Game Boy colors, and a metal Pokemon frame made for a nice little tabletop. You can see some of the video here, him lining, I guess, a mold or just a setup there with 15 different Game Boys, some of them custom done, painted all of this, and then just dumping a bunch of resin into it, creating a tabletop. Sure, it also lights up as well. And you might be wondering, why is this much of a story? Well, it didn't go over that well online because, well, he destroyed 15 Game Boy colors that, while we're not 100% sure if they all worked, it seems like the majority of them would have been based on the design as people started to look them up online and find them on places like Etsy and all of this. And it's like, well, you're destroying perfectly good working Game Boy colors for a tabletop. And yeah, there's probably better ways you could have gone about that. And as people were saying online, you could have just put like a display case table that you can open up and put the Game Boy colors in there, and then they would have been fine. My issue with the project is he missed out on one thing. What he could have done is gotten some high definition prints of maybe his favorite scenes in the different Pokemon games. It seems to be a big Pokemon person here, probably through nostalgia, obviously with the Game Boy colors. Maybe like his favorite Pokedex entries, the title screens, and cut them out and put them inside behind the plastic part, and you wouldn't even need to put the board or the screen in there, and they would have all looked like they were actually on and functioning. That would have been kind of neat. Otherwise, they look kind of lifeless in there. But I don't know. I mean, it's a cool idea and project. It just didn't go over well with much of the retro community because, well, there's 15 Game Boy colors down the tubes. However, the way I see it is, I mean, there is Game Boys. So it's like he can kind of do what he wants with them. And if he wants to dump resin all over them, ruining them and putting them in a table, there you go. And really, if you think about the Game Boy Color itself, there are a lot of them still out there. They're not exactly rare. It's like 60 to 80 bucks to buy one. Now, in like 10 years, could we be looking back on this moment as like, wow, remember when those were $60 or $80? Yes, I remember this very vividly with the GameCube like 10 years ago. So that could happen at some point. I don't think I'm gonna look back on Logan Paul encasing 15 of them in resin as like the straw that broke the camel's back, but it's a very controversial thing apparently on Twitter, and maybe that was the mistake in the first place, was going to Twitter to see what people had to say about it. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, will the Switch end up passing the DS in lifetime sales? 81% say yes. That means it's gonna have to cross at least, I mean, it's gonna be up there in like 155, 156 million. 160 million leaves no doubt at all. Yes, the Switch would have passed it then. 19% said no. I think the biggest part here is gonna be how long does the Switch generation last? If this is legitimately an 8 to 10 year cycle, like Nintendo comes out with a stronger one and it just kind of takes over for the current Switch and this just keeps on rolling, then yeah, it probably will get there just because it's been around long enough. I mean, the DS was around for quite a while, but that was just selling like crazy there. I mean, it was breaking off like 33, 34 million unit like years. It was wild stuff. The PS2 was just around for what seems like forever, right? It got like FIFA 14. So yeah, it just longevity is what got the PS2 to its number. The Switch would probably have to be the same way because it's not exactly selling as fast as the DS. But based on the supply issues now, Nintendo may just be forced to make this into a longer generation than even they had originally anticipated. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from SJ saying, for anyone still avoiding Final Fantasy XIV because of login queues mentioned, the queues have been almost non-existent for the past week compared to the 2 to 3 hour queues of release week. People have finished the main story quest and are stopping the binge marathons that were filling servers. You know what? I'll admit, I've seen a lot of talk around Final Fantasy XIV, and I have thought about firing it up on the PS5 and just seeing what this thing is all about. I remember when it was out on the PS3, and I tried it. This is like when it first came out and had a lot of problems. They had to do like the whole reboot, like the Realm Reborn or whatever. I'm thinking about it. I know there's a lot of time invested into this. I kind of just want to see the main story though. Let me know how much time do I need to invest to get to where they are now with the main story and then complete it, because something tells me it's hundreds of hours, and based on what I'm doing now, I don't know if I can just sit down and go hundreds of hours in a single game, especially as we go into 2022 and games just start coming out of like all over the place, right? It's going to be tough to get Final Fantasy XIV in there, but let me know your experiences with it so far and if it's time to make that happen. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's Nintendo's concerns, even warning around the Switch's supply heading into 2022, or Remedy and all of the projects they're working on right now. And then, yeah, let me know what you think about the Logan Paul Game Boy situation. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.